All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Advice.
This week, we're going to go lace up our shoes and dive into the world of marathon training.
Oh, love it.
Specifically, we're going to be looking at week 7
Okay.
in the life of a runner who's getting ready for the big race.
Hmm.
And we've got two really interesting sources to work with here.
Right.
We've got their personal training log so we can see, all the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah.
And then we've got this blog post that they wrote kind of reflecting on the week.
Nice.
And both of these are covering the same week, which is week 7.
Okay, cool.
What makes this week so interesting is this runner's taking on a pretty infamous climb.
Yeah.
Highgate Hill, have you heard of that?
Yes, definitely notorious.
Yeah, and we get to see how they handle it, not just physically, but mentally, too.
Yeah, I mean, the mental game in marathon training is huge.
Absolutely.
And it's so interesting how it all ties together with the physical side of things.
Right.
Even just looking at the stats for this week, you get a sense of how intense it's getting.
Yeah.
This runner clocked a total of 45.04 kilometers.
Wow.
Over 6 hours of running.
That's a lot.
And 355 meters of elevation gain, so.
Gosh, that's serious mileage.
Yeah, they're putting in the work.
Yeah, and you mentioned Highgate Hill,
Oh, yeah.
which I know is a tough one.
Yeah.
Just reading about it in their log made my legs hurt.
Oh, it's a beast for sure.
Yeah.
And get this runner actually ran it twice
What?
during their long run.
No way.
Yeah, which was 25.77 kilometers.
Oh, my goodness.
That's not just building endurance, that's strategic.
Yeah.
It's about mental toughness.
Right.
You conquer something like Highgate Hill, especially twice.
Yeah.
It does amazing things for your confidence.
Makes sense.
Helps you push through that self-doubt later in the race.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I've climbed that mountain, I can do anything.
Right.
Kind of feeling.
Yeah, I can see that.
And it's funny because in their blog post, the runner says, quote, "Felt good, was over before I knew it, must be enjoying it."
Oh, wow.
I mean, you'd think running up a giant hill would be the opposite of enjoyable.
Right. It doesn't sound like fun.
No, but that's where this idea of flow state comes in.
Okay.
You know that feeling when you're so absorbed in something that time just flies by?
Yeah.
That's flow state.
Uh-huh.
And it's super powerful for athletes.
Oh, interesting.
It sounds like pushing through that climb actually triggered it for this runner. This intense focus, totally immersed in what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Effort feels effortless.
Wow.
There's this deep sense of satisfaction.
So they're not just like, gritting their teeth and powering through the pain.
Right.
They're actually finding a way to enjoy it.
Exactly. Even the hard parts.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And it's a valuable lesson for all of us, whether we're training for a marathon or not.
I was going to say, yeah, what can we, regular folks take away from this?
It's about finding those flow moments in our own challenges
Okay.
and using that to fuel our progress.
Yeah, I like that.
But, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right.
The runner also mentioned being super sore afterwards.
No.
Even some swelling in their knee.
Oh, ouch.
They could barely walk that evening.
Oh, that doesn't sound like flow state anymore.
No.
Sounds like a reminder that even when you're feeling good, pushing too hard can have consequences.
Absolutely. It's that fine line between pushing your limits and risking injury.
Yeah.
Even elite athletes have setbacks.
Right.
And this is where the coach's role is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
The training log mentions a recovery run on Monday, just a short one,
Yeah.
5.86 kilometers.
Okay.
But the coach emphasized how important it was.
So even in week 7, with the marathon coming up,
Yeah.
taking it easy is still key.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Active recovery, like this easy run, helps flush out lactic acid,
Right.
reduces soreness, prevents stiffness.
Okay.
It's not just about resting. It's about actively promoting repair and recovery.
I see. So you're still moving.
Yeah, you're helping your body bounce back.
Okay. That makes sense.
And it seems like this runner's getting good at this part, too.
Oh, yeah.
The coach notes that they've really got the hang of these recovery runs.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it sounds like they're becoming more in tune with their body's needs.
Yeah. Which has got to be a good sign for the rest of their training.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got the recovery runs, but let's be honest.
Yeah.
Those can be a bit, boring.
Yeah, compared to those epic hill climbs, right?
Exactly. A little less exciting.
True. Which is why variety in training is so important.
Okay, makes sense.
And that brings us to Sunday's fartlek session.
Okay, fartlek.
Yeah, it was 4-minute sprints with 2-minute recoveries.
Fartlek, that sounds intense.
It means speed play in Swedish.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and it's a brilliant way to build both speed and endurance.
Okay, how does that work?
You're varying the intensity,
Mm-hmm.
sprints, then recovery periods.
Mm-hmm.
It challenges your cardiovascular system.
Right.
Tone teaches your body to handle changes in pace. Super important for a marathon.
So it's not just about running as fast as you can the whole time.
No.
It's about being able to adapt.
Yes, having that control.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the runner said they felt very consistent during the sprints.
That's a good sign, right?
Yeah, it shows they're getting stronger, more in tune with their body.
Very cool.
But, all this training must require some serious sacrifices.
Oh, for sure.
They even mentioned giving up badminton to focus on the marathon and protect their knee.
That's a tough choice.
Yeah, and I think it's something a lot of people can relate to,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're not training for a marathon.
Yeah. When you set a big goal, sometimes other things have to take a backseat.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing what's important.
Yeah. And having the discipline to stick to those choices.
Oh, absolutely.
Even when you miss doing those other things.
It's not easy.
No, it's not.
And that's where a good coach can make such a difference.
Oh, for sure.
This runner's coach gave them some advice about pacing,
Okay.
reminding them not to push too hard, especially on the long runs.
Which brings us back to that balance we were talking about.
Yes.
Pushing your limits but avoiding injury.
Exactly.
Sounds like the coach is helping them find that sweet spot.
Absolutely. Providing guidance, feedback, encouragement, all essential.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So this week was a bit of a roller coaster for this runner.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Conquering Highgate Hill, dealing with soreness, nailing those recovery runs, pushing themselves with that fartlek session.
Wow. Yeah, a lot going on.
It seems like they're starting to find a rhythm, though, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so. Like they're figuring out how to manage it all.
Yeah. And that's a key takeaway here.
Okay.
It's not about being perfect or having every run go smoothly.
Right.
It's about learning, adapting, finding that balance between pushing yourself and taking care of yourself.
Body and mind. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a lesson we can all apply to our own lives.
Absolutely. Even if we're not training for marathons.
Right. But I'm curious, how can we translate these specific techniques and strategies
Yeah.
into everyday challenges?
That's what I'm wondering too.
That's something we can explore further in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good. Looking forward to it. Okay, so we've seen how this runner's handling their training, like both physically and mentally.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
It is, but what I'm really curious about is how can we take these lessons and apply them to our own lives? Because most of us aren't training for marathons, but we all have our own, Highgate Hills to climb, right?
Oh, absolutely. I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Whether it's a big project at work, a creative endeavor, or even just trying to build a new habit, the principles are surprisingly similar.
Okay, I like that. So break it down for us.
Well, just like this runner broke down that long run into manageable segments, we can break down our goals into smaller, less daunting steps. Instead of focusing on the entire mountain, focus on the next step.
Right. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by the whole project,
Yeah.
I can just focus on the next task on my list.
Exactly.
Right.
The next email to send, the next paragraph to write,
Right.
It's about shifting your perspective, focusing your energy on what you can control in that moment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And remember how the runner fueled up with those energy gels during their long run?
Oh, yeah.
We need to find ways to fuel up, too,
That
when we're tackling those challenging tasks.
Okay, so what does that look like? Like, what are our energy gels?
It might mean taking breaks, rewarding ourselves for small wins,
Okay.
or seeking support from colleagues or friends.
I love that.
Find what works for you.
Yeah, we all need our metaphorical energy gels to keep us going, right?
Exactly.
But what about those times when we really hit a wall? When we feel like we've pushed ourselves too far and we just can't go any further?
Right. Those are tough moments.
Yep.
That's when we need to remember the importance of those recovery runs.
Okay.
Sometimes the best way to move forward is to take a step back. Allow yourself time to rest and recharge.
So it's like, just like the runner wouldn't attempt a hard workout every single day,
Right.
we need to build in those periods of downtime.
Exactly.
Okay.
To avoid burnout and actually boost our creativity
Yeah.
and problem-solving abilities.
You're right. It's like we're so programmed to go, go, go
Yeah.
that we forget that rest is not a luxury, but a necessity.
It's essential.
Yeah. And this runner's experience is a great reminder of that,
Definitely.
that recovery is an essential part of the process, not a sign of weakness.
Right. And it's not just about physical rest. It's about mental and emotional rest as well.
Oh, that's a good point.
Giving ourselves permission to step back from our challenges can often lead to breakthroughs and renewed motivation when we return.
That's so true. Sometimes when I'm struggling with a problem, the best thing I can do is walk away from it for a while. And often the solution comes to me when I'm doing something completely different, like taking a walk or having a shower.
Yeah, I get that.
It's like my brain needs that space to process and come up with creative solutions.
It's amazing how that works.
It is.
And speaking of making space, we can't forget about the sacrifices that the runner made.
Right, like giving up badminton.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To focus on training and avoid injury.
Right.
And I think that resonates with a lot of people who are striving to achieve ambitious goals.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it means making tough choices and temporarily putting other things on hold.
It's like saying, okay, for this period of time, this is my priority, and I need to make sure I'm giving it my full attention.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not always easy.
No, it's not.
Especially when it means giving up something you enjoy.
Right. But it's about recognizing that sacrifices are often necessary to achieve something truly meaningful.
Okay, so it's not about deprivation. It's about making conscious choices about where you direct your energy and time. It's about saying yes to what matters most.
Yes.
And being willing to say no to things that might distract you from your goal.
Absolutely. And remember, the runner's coach played a key role in helping them make those decisions.
Right, yeah.
Offering guidance and support.
Okay.
It's a reminder that we don't have to go it alone.
Good point.
Having a mentor, a trusted friend, or even just someone who believes in us can make a huge difference.
It's like having our own personal Jen, like the runner's coach.
Yeah, exactly.
To cheer us on, provide a different perspective, maybe even remind us to take a break when we need to.
Absolutely. And it doesn't even have to be a real person, you know?
Right.
It could be a book, a podcast, a community of like-minded individuals.
Yeah, yeah.
Or even just our own inner wisdom guiding us. The point is to have that support system in place, whatever form it takes.
I like that. Yeah, it's about finding what works for you.
Right.
You talked about flow states earlier and how this runner seemed to tap into that while tackling Highgate Hill. Do you think that's something we can all experience, even if we're not elite athletes pushing our physical limits?
Absolutely. Flow states are not limited to athletes.
Okay.
It can happen in any activity where we're fully engaged and immersed, where the challenge level matches our skills perfectly.
So it's not so much about the activity itself,
Right.
but about the mindset and the level of focus we bring to it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about finding those activities that challenge us just enough to keep us motivated, but not so much that we feel overwhelmed.
Right, that sweet spot.
Yes. And when we hit that sweet spot, we might just find ourselves experiencing that magical state of flow.
Yeah.
Where time seems to disappear and we're completely absorbed in the task at hand.
Oh, that makes me think about my own work.
Yeah.
There are definitely times when I feel that sense of flow, when the hours just fly by and I'm totally in the zone. But then there are other times when I feel stuck, frustrated, and like I'm just slogging through.
And that's completely normal.
Okay.
We all go through those cycles.
Yeah.
But the key takeaway here is that we have more control over those cycles than we might realize.
Okay. I like that.
By incorporating some of the principles we're seeing in this runner's training.
Right.
Setting clear goals, breaking them down, prioritizing recovery, seeking support.
Yeah.
We can create conditions that are more conducive to those flow states.
I see.
Those moments of peak performance and deep satisfaction.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
It's not just about running a marathon. It's about applying that same disciplined approach, that same mindset of resilience and self-care to any area of our lives where we want to achieve something meaningful.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the journey itself, with all its challenges and triumphs, is just as important as the destination.
And that brings us back to the runner's final reflection in their blog. That sense of rhythm developing between the intense workouts and the recovery periods.
Right.
The acknowledgement of the hurdles, but also the unwavering resolve to keep going.
It's that spirit of perseverance, that willingness to embrace the ups and downs of the journey.
Yeah.
That ultimately allows us to achieve our full potential, whether we're running a marathon or simply striving to live a more fulfilling life.
So what does this all mean for our listeners?
That's a good question.
How can we take these insights and apply them to our own lives, our own goals, our own challenges?
That's a question we'll explore further in our next segment.
Okay.
Where we'll get even more specific about how to translate these marathon training principles into actionable strategies for everyday life.
Okay, so we've been talking about flow states and resilience and pushing limits.
Yeah, all these great concepts.
But it's easy to get lost in the big picture, you know?
Right.
Can you give us some concrete examples of how to apply these marathon training lessons to everyday life.
Absolutely. Remember those Highgate Hills we talked about? Those challenging moments that push us to our limits?
Yeah.
For the runner, it was a literal hill. But for you, it might be that presentation you're dreading.
Right, or like that difficult conversation you're putting off.
Exactly. Or maybe it's that creative project that feels so big and overwhelming, you don't even know where to start.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
And just like the runner didn't focus on the entire hill at once, we can break down our own challenges into smaller steps, less intimidating.
So instead of thinking, I have to finish this whole presentation by tomorrow,
Right.
I should think, okay, first I'm going to create the outline, then I'll focus on each slide one at a time.
Precisely. Break it down, focus on what you can control right now, and suddenly it doesn't feel so daunting.
Yeah, that's a good strategy.
And remember those energy gels the runner used for fuel?
Oh, yeah.
We need to find ways to fuel up, too, when we're tackling our challenges.
Okay, so what would that look like for, the average person?
Taking breaks, celebrating small wins, asking for help from a colleague. These are all ways to replenish our energy and keep us going.
It's like giving ourselves permission to pause and recharge.
Yes.
So we can tackle the next step with fresh eyes.
Exactly. And speaking of recharging, we can't forget about the importance of those recovery runs.
Right, those are important.
We all have those moments when we hit a wall, when we feel like we just can't push any further.
Yeah, I think we all know that feeling.
That's when we need to remember that sometimes the best way to move forward is to take a step back.
So instead of beating ourselves up for feeling stuck,
Right.
maybe we should schedule some downtime, go for a walk, or even just take a few deep breaths.
Absolutely. Rest and recovery are not signs of weakness. They're essential parts of the process.
It's true. It's so easy to forget that.
And it's not just about physical rest. It's about giving your mind a break, too.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Disconnecting from work, spending time in nature, doing something you enjoy. These are all ways to replenish your mental and emotional energy.
It's like hitting the reset button so we can come back to our challenges feeling refreshed.
Exactly.
Maybe see things from a new angle.
And finally, let's not forget about the sacrifices this runner made.
Right. Giving up badminton.
Yeah, that they had to do that to focus on their marathon training.
Yeah.
Similarly, we may need to make some temporary sacrifices to achieve our ambitions.
Like what kind of sacrifices?
Maybe cutting back on social commitments for a while or delegating tasks to free up time and energy.
Okay, so it's about being intentional with our time and energy.
Yes.
Making conscious choices about where we focus our efforts.
Exactly. And it's not always easy, especially when it means giving up something we enjoy.
No, it's not, but it's about prioritizing what truly matters to us in this moment, right?
Absolutely. And just like the runner might eventually return to badminton, we can reassess our priorities and make adjustments as our goals and circumstances evolve.
So the key is to be mindful of the choices we're making.
Yes.
And make sure they're aligned with what we truly want to achieve.
Exactly.
This deep dive has been so insightful.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
It's amazing how something as specific as marathon training can offer such universal lessons about setting goals, overcoming challenges, and finding that balance between pushing ourselves and taking care of ourselves.
It's a reminder that the principles of dedication, resilience, and self-care are not just for athletes, they're for everyone.
They're the building blocks of a fulfilling life, no matter what our goals may be.
I love that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we leave you with this final thought. What's your Highgate Hill?
Ooh, good question.
What challenge are you facing that requires you to, dig deep, push your limits, and embrace the journey with all its ups and downs?
And how can you apply these lessons to conquer your own personal summit?
Remember, break it down into manageable steps.
Find ways to fuel yourself along the way.
Prioritize rest and recovery.
And don't be afraid to ask for support when you need it.
You've got this.
We believe in you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep pushing, keep learning, and keep exploring.